Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond, Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, reflections on the appointments by the President. What are your observations looking at the choices he made? Towards the end of last week, President Museveni reshuffled his cabinet, naming new ministers and rotating some to other positions. Among the new faces are Frank Tumwebaze, Edmond, Richard Tudong, Ernest Jesus, Sebagala, Rosemary Najemba Muinda, and Sarah Kataike. All these are ministers. Sam Kuchesa, John Sasira, Mwesgoro Kutana, and Tassis Kawejere bounced back. They had been ministers before. This is the first time the president has carried out a reshuffle in his within 1 year of the five-year term that he was handed last year, and the significance of this development is still open to interpretation. Over the weekend, the same president named 82 presidential advisors and several presidential assistants, on top of 112 resident district commissioners or RDCs who also have assistants. Using the same powers conferred upon him as head of state, Mr. Museveni also appointed new ambassadors, and key among them are NRM Kares, Alintuman Sambu, Dorothy Huha, Oliver Onera, and Chintu Nyago, who becomes deputy head of mission in New York. The president has the powers to appoint people who will help him in executing his mandate to serve the country and deliver on his manifesto. Hence the appointment of ministers, RDCs, ambassadors, and other officials. Many people have insisted that it's now necessary to minimize the cost of public administration, making it critical to have a lean but effective team. Ever since the appointments were made, there have been many responses, but it seems Muslims have taken offense with the president, saying they have been neglected. Yesterday, some NRM politicians were confronted, and one vivid example is when the chairman of the Muslim Parliamentary Caucus, Honorable Hood Katuram, was attacked by fellow Muslims at Chibuli Mosque during the Eid prayers. So tonight we reflect on the appointments, as we also take stock of what is expected from those appointed, and if at all, they can discharge the mandate given to them. We will also discuss what should be considered when making appointments, and if at all President Museveni is vindicated, looking at the choices he made in the different appointments. Our guests tonight, Honorable Betty Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance Party. You're most welcome, Honorable Kamya.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
Our second guest, Mr. Fred Bamwine, the new Resident District Commissioner of Mpigi District. You're most welcome, Mr. Bamwine.
Thank you, Mr. Kizito, and good evening, listeners and viewers.
We're also joined by Honorable Abdul Latiff Sebagala, Kawempe North MP, also Imam of Parliament. You're most welcome, Honorable Latiff Sebagala.
Good evening, viewers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Viewers, because we are also on the internet, you can access a video of Spectrum of YouTube. That's the internet channel. Pardon me. Honorable Sebagala, why did Museveni undertake the reshuffle, in your view?
I don't call it a reshuffle, because when you look at the list, almost 80 members, almost 90% were old ministers. The new entrants, as you have mentioned, they are not more than 10. So it was just an in-house reorganization. It was not a reshuffle. And I believe that we have had for almost a year when we had almost 10 vacant positions. You remember the scenario of setting us up, stepping aside by the ministers, and finally those were reappointed as ministers. To me, I was not at all surprised in as far as the composition is concerned, because they are the people whom the president feels that he can work with better, and the people whom the president knows that maybe he doesn't put into consideration public opinion. And if that is the head of state we have, that he is not bothered about the public opinion, what the public is going to say about his ministers, then we wish them well.
if you took into account the public opinion, I'm saying public opinion in quotes, what do you think he would have done?
I believe that if the president was really very considerate, and if we are in a more civilized country, definitely I wouldn't have expected any minister who was mentioned in any scandal, even if they were cleared. But in public courts, these people are still guilty. They were not cleared. So I wouldn't have expected the president in a civilized democracy to really, because we have so many Ugandans who are not dented. We have so many Ugandans who can serve, who don't have any bad record. But if you can really reappoint people who have so many questions, and then you reappoint them, and then I think it's just birds of the same feather flock together.
Honorable Kamya, would you do what the president did in his shoes?
Well, you must consider, thank you once again, and may I congratulate the people that were appointed by the president, especially those who deserve it. One of them is actually on this table.
Yes.
I think he's one man that deserves recognition from his party leader, because I think he's served his party fairly well. I would put them in about 4 categories. I don't think the president was driven by a ruler, and say this is what I'm going to do. I think he had 4 considerations that he needed to make. One, he needed to reward performance, and performance is defined according to the president or to the appointing authority based on his objectives. In that category, I would put people like Frank Tumwebaze, and of course my friend Fred Bamwine. That category of young people who have grown up in the movement right from school days. I think now they are
family men.
They're family men, and I think that they have served the party very well. And I think the president sees them as young people with a future in the party and in the country. And I think that Frank Tumwebaze is particularly good for State House because he can defend really eloquently and without being too much of a yes person. I think he's good for State House minister. There are also those I think he sympathized with. He needed to give them a decent pension. People like Kawempe.
That's his Kawempe.
From what I hear,
you give pensions in cabinet where performance is supreme.
No, I'm not justifying. I'm discussing. You asked me what formed.
Go on.
I'm not justifying anything. I'm just in the president's. I'm reading the president's mind.
Yes, madam.
Then there are people like I think Professor Kawempe who needed the job. There are many who needed the job. Otherwise, things would have been
elephant.
Quite difficult.
Like they say, God.
From what I hear, they needed at least a decent pension. I think he also needed to be defiant and throw caution. I think he was being defiant. There's a time when President says, like there's a time I think he said, so what if I refuse? Are you going to impeach me? That attitude. There was a time I think he said sometime, so what if I don't do this? Are you going to impeach me? As if it's the most impossible thing in the world. So I think he wanted to be defiant and show these people that I can do it, which to me is a good thing because it's going to show Ugandans the problems I always talk about here, the power of the presidency and how much the constitution gives him. Even when Parliament says this, the constitution allows him a lot of leeway to do what he wants. For me, it was like he was giving examples of what I've been talking about. And I think he also needed to continue with his old programs in returning people like the Nasasiras and the, you can see people who have a program, who would continue. I mean, people like maybe Saida Bomba, who would not, although they had big jobs and they lost them, you probably wouldn't risk for them. There are people you don't risk for. There are people you can give jobs because maybe, they can perform, but then there are people you don't risk for. So people like Saida Bomba and Chidu Makubuya were probably not people worth staking your reputation for, as far as your
They've gone into the red zone.
As far as your programs are concerned.
Yes.
They are okay for public opinion, they are okay for regional balancing, they are okay for gender, they are okay for all those other things. But when it comes to staking your credibility,
yes,
you probably wouldn't do it for them. So I think that the president categorized his, and of course there are a lot of them. They needed jobs. People lobby. The amount of lobbying that goes on in State House, Mr. President. I've been loyal. Ask Bamwine. I need a job. I have a family. Find something for me. So he has. And Mr. Museveni, I think he can be a kind man if you don't disorganize his. If you don't stand in his way. If you don't need to be crushed.
The way of the vision.
Yeah, then he can be a very kind man. So I think most of those people needed jobs, and they've been lobbying for jobs, and he needed to just get it over with and give them jobs.
Yes, Mr. Fred Bamwine, of course we've already said we're happy for you. You're back in the job. You were RDC in Akawa before that, and we're glad you're there. You've been a loyal man. I've known you for more than 10 years. Always saying the same things, whether it's daylight or night time. Talk to us about...
10 years is too tight.
Well, that's I've only known you for 10 years.
I think, one, I want to thank the president to have finally constituted government since he was elected. Because the process of constituting government had not completed along the way. You remember the first nominees of cabinet, where some of them were rejected, and so the cabinet remained halfway. Then others got problems, as you know. But I think I don't agree with, particularly with Honorable Latiff. In his view, and Honorable Bit, they have tempted not to address the fundamental, which to me, I think the president has constituted a team which must help him to make sure that the manifesto or the agreement he made with the voters is fulfilled to the letter. And that manifesto is the one that is going to be tested about or upon by 2016. So in that program, you have the cabinet which has to be constituted fully. He has finally done it. Maybe if others got problems in vetting the appointments committee, then he had to have his representatives as RDCs. Then he has to have representatives of government in other countries as ambassadors and high commissioners. So he has put a team in his wisdom, which he thinks can fulfill his manifesto. He pledged of effective service delivery and job creation. Of course, there are many things we're talking about. We're talking about good education, talking health, we're talking about power, you're talking about household income, very many programs to be accomplished. And in his wisdom, this is the team he's putting forward to make sure that the manifesto is implemented to the letter. I don't, Honorable Sebagala says he doesn't mind about public opinion. Of course, public opinion depends on where you're standing. I am very sure that President Museveni did not get 100%. That means there was a section of Ugandans, of the public opinion, which did not believe in him. Therefore, I agree with him to that extent, that there is that public opinion. However much he did what? which could not be praised. But at the same time, it cannot stop him from fulfilling his mandate as president, as per the constitution and per the requirement of the constitution of the country. Now, whatever Sebagala is not fair to his honorable colleagues. He says some people have been dented and they have bounced back. I have read some bits of law. In Uganda, in the case of Uganda, it is only the courts of Uganda which can declare you to have been wanting. Now, these are individuals who are still facing the courts. The court has not yet declared them.
But there's a suspicion.
Yes.
But the president said, among all the many people he has, he chooses those ones with a question mark.
According to Sebagala,
That's what people think.
he's saying, now that some people had suspected them, he should have gone with the suspicion. Now, assuming it is a scheme of Sebagala's team who don't believe in the President Seven and NRM,
To take them to court
no, to suspect every member of cabinet
and take them to
and every
court.
member of government, what will happen? So you find
Well, suspicion won't take you
cannot
to court.
move. You can't move.
Suspicion won't take you to court.
According to him, he said public opinion, and that's what I'm addressing. Therefore, to me, I think you can not just based on mere public opinion to base the decision. The decision must be scientific, must be researched, and then you arrive to a relative conclusion that can result into a scientific answer. Now, when you come to my sister Betty, she brings in a lot of things. Sympathy. I really,
responding to our.
with due respect, maybe some people may perform this according to.
No, excuse me.
No,
I am using information I have that people lobby and cry.
I'm not saying anything.
And he's aware.
So I don't know why you are laughing.
I'm trying to say your research needs to be more polished.
You know the process.
Because even if there was no sympathy,
People don't lobby.
even if there was no sympathy,
Just ask him.
even if there was no defiance, even if there was no continuity according to her, still the president has a responsibility.
I think that's
Well, I think that's beside the point.
That's not what we are discussing.
Yes, go on.
We know that the president was supposed to fill, but we are discussing his choice.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
so we know even your preamble was
my
irrelevant because he's
departure-
supposed to fill government.
my departure is that he's assembling a team which can effectively deliver on the promises he made to the country.
Are you confident is the best thing that you could have got?
To me, apart, of course, the other cabinet he was
Leaving yourself out. Let's look at the others.
even if you leave me in, even if you leave me in, I think to me, he's trying to mix. Because all along he has been framed to bring cabinet of all the people. I was making a scan through when you look at that chart. I think the middle young age
The average age.
are the majority now. When you look at it, of course there are some few old ones, but I think he's trying to show that in a few years to come, there is another group coming to take over from this old group. I think that's the signal he's trying to send. And secondly, you know what has failed in the world is a product called hope. I think he's bringing a team which can restore hope and confidence in the population about government service delivery. And I have no doubt the team that has been assembled, particularly when you look at the choice of RDCs, when you look at the choice of these young who have been brought in cabinet, I can tell you, 2 years if you invited us to come back here, the story would be different.
Honorable Sebagala, very briefly on that. Also, I would like you to tell us, but very briefly, don't you think the cabinet is a bit bloated? Some people think it's too large. Some people think it's not big enough. But
Let me tell you, I am one of those who admit that there is no country among the G8 which has ever developed because of democracy and human rights, to me. But since we chose the right of the path of democracy, it has a huge cost which can even delay the rapid growth of a country. Even if you had 2 members of parliament, they can debate for the country. But you are the one who says, what does the population want? what Honorable Sebagala has not told you, as you are saying that the cabinet is big, Honorable Sebagala is telling you that our team is not there.
That's a matter of proportion.
So
it's not about size. Would you agree?
When you are promoting the issue of democracy, which I believe in with reservations, you have a huge problem.
You prefer an autocracy?
And you cannot even at the end of the day balance everything.
You prefer an autocracy or what?
I prefer a small cabinet, about 10 people, about 40 members of parliament. We finish.
Honorable Sebagala, does this kind of parliament, let's look at the age, let's forget about the other balance factors. When you look at the age, does it give hope? The age mix?
I don't believe that it's giving us hope. Because you cannot, in a country with a population of over 30 million people, appoint the same people who are related to corruption. And you're aware that we have had various corruption-related scandals where many of these ministers were implicated. And I don't think the president really, if he's really very, very willing to fight corruption, really bring the same names of those people who are really dented.
Let's look at the age mix. The age mix, is that something you could give me a plus for?
I don't believe that even the age mix is...
Because it's trying to bring in some younger people.
No. It's just
the old ones are still there.
The young ones who have been brought in is just preparing for the next elections. So he realized that maybe by tapping the talents from the young parliamentarians and others, definitely is going to really tap voters outside there, that even the youth are included. But definitely, as a leader, as a president, he is just, don't look at the cabinet as it is, but for him, as the appointing authority, he knows that in appointing such and such, this is what I'm going to achieve in 2016.
Right. Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, reflections on the appointments by the president. What are your observations looking at the choices he made? We'll go for a break. When we come back, you will be able to call in and contribute. We'll talk about the deputy IGG, Andrew Munanura, his father who was a judge, Justice Karokora, the ambassadors that he named, 2 former private secretaries, now ambassadors in Rome and deputy in New York, respectively, and the new names that were that came up. Frank Tumweba's Aiden Nantava, Richard Tudong, Ernest Chiza, and others. Do stay tuned. We'll be back.
You can pay, you can buy, pay your bills, pay school fees, send cash overseas, pay taxi fees, and salaries, anything you need.
You can do anything with MTN Mobile Money. And now, for the first time in Uganda, you can even pay your electricity bills. Go to your MTN Mobile Money menu, select Pay Bills, select Umeme Touch Pay, and follow the prompts.
MTN. Everywhere you go.
John, Mike, and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. Reflections on the appointments by the president. What are your observations looking at the choices he made? Our guest tonight, Honorable Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance Party, Mr. Fred Bamwine, the new resident district commissioner from Mpigi district. Honorable, he was the RDC Nakawa before that. Honorable Abdul Latiff Sebagala, Kawempe North MP and Imam of Parliament. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Honorable Kamya, are there people that the president disappointed, NRM cohorts?
I think, of course, he disappointed many people, but he disappointed many people. One of them is Honorable Sebagala, right?
No, I mean within the party, people who have worked so hard for, doing their job.
But Sebagala is among those who worked hard.
No, I think there are many Muslims who are disappointed. They said it, that it did not. They don't see a Muslim, and I think that that's why I'm saying. That's why I said that I think the president also had a bit of defiance in him, because when you lose two Muslims, I mean, being so politically conscious as we are in this country, to be politically correct about many things, you lose Mbabali.
I was actually trying to look at not the sectoral divisions that we're talking about. Let's talk about the NRM, the insiders, the people who have been working so hard, caucusing and so on. And people would have expected to be on the list.
I'm sure there are so many. I mean, there are about 200 NRM MPs, and many of them, I think, apart from about 10.
All right.
The rest of them.
Let's look at the other choices. The Deputy IGG Andrew Munanura, was that the best person to choose for that job? He's got a master's in law from London. He doesn't seem to have too much experience doing law. Was he a good choice?
Edmond, I was trying to finish this sentence, but you keep stopping me from saying this sentence. That the president is being defiant. That I'm going to do what I want,
regardless.
Throwing caution to the wind. Because normally in Uganda these days, you have to be very careful when making decisions. You have to be very mindful of origin, of religion, of there are many things that you have to be mindful about. But this choice of the president, of the deputy IGG, and of his cabinet, it looks to me like somebody who is throwing caution to the wind and saying, "Echiba chikolechi, come what may. This is what I want to do because I need, these people, not because they're the best, but they will serve his interest." People like, I can imagine a lot of people who could have been deputy IGGs, and little known Munanura, with little experience, as you said, is like, come what may.
But he's well positioned. He went to Ntara, he went to the University of Dar es Salaam.
Exactly, yeah. He's
son of a judge.
It's about people he knows. And I have a feeling maybe he feels a bit insecure without people like Nasasir and Sam Kutesa. He needs them around for some. I think there must be. But
maybe that's what he had to do because of the dynamics of politics. This is a political game.
Yeah, exactly.
You probably would do the same thing.
We agree. We are all saying that it's not for Uganda at the end of the day. I think that's the bottom line. It is not really for the manifesto or for Uganda.
It's political expediency.
It's more for NRM. It's more for Museveni. It's about 2016, and of course it's about to the young people are intended to balance the other ones, the rebels.
All right.
The rebels, because they're also young people. So when you've got a lot of young people going up, then into government, and they articulate, they're well spoken, then they balance out these other people.
However, let's look at the other positions. Of course, you've complained in the past that there are too few Muslims. The Muslims that were removed were not replaced by Muslims. When you look at the other positions, is it balanced out? Ambassadors and then the deputy IGG and the RDCs.
But I think it is a deliberate policy by His Excellency the President always to sideline Muslims in all appointments. This is my third term in Parliament. I was once on the Appointments Committee. We had a lot of discussions and a lot of really concerns in all the presidential nominees that were forwarded to Parliament for approval, who have been complaining the Speaker as the chairperson of the Appointments Committee. But in time in and out, the President forwards nominees to Parliament, But when you look at the names,
the ratio is low of Muslims. How about the elective positions in parliament? Do you have a good mix of Muslims, a good representation? What's the percentage? Do you have that figure of?
Yeah, the percentage, because when we talk about the elective posts, and then that is different.
Let's first look at that, then we can draw parallels.
Yeah, but when you come to elective posts in parliament, we have some good
What's the percentage? Would you have that?
We are around 50. Around 50
out of 300, that's about...
Yeah, we are around 50. But that one is not comparable to appointments, because that one is through universal adult suffrage. Are we together? But we are talking about these political appointments. And yet the constitution is very clear.
That's about 16%.
Article 32 is very clear that the state should eliminate any form of discrimination. The state. And who is heading the state? The president. That any form of discrimination, there's no way how you can appoint 80 ministers and then you give Muslims only 4.
Yes,
and then you put the other 2 to culture and gender. And then you go to RDCs around 175, and then you give Muslims less than 15.
That's 5%. Let's get some parallels.
I don't think
5% in cabinet, 16% in legislature.
What we are saying is that when you look at these elective posts, that's a different issue.
But they're still high, 16%.
No. It's still high. But what I'm saying, that if the president is aware that he is duty bound to protect the constitution, which mandates him to, because one of the reasons the president forwarded to vary the number of ministers was that I want to balance the region and region. But what kind of balance when you appoint 80 ministers and then you give 4 and then you give only 1 as cabinet minister? So I think as Muslims we have come to a conclusion that it is a deliberate policy of NRM, and I really sympathize with those NRM supporters who are Muslims, who are well qualified, who don't really, whom the Baganda say that they are good at work and they are not good at sharing the national cake. So I think we have stopped complaining. We have come to the conclusion that as Muslims, this is a deliberate policy by the NRM government to sideline Muslims in all positions.
Fred Bamwine, why does your government do those things?
I was enjoying Honorable Latiff. So that is a teacher now. Because he has been looking for an issue. How can I crack this NRM? Now I've got it. I think
rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, he played in his role. As far as I'm concerned, if I was the head of state of this country, I would just appoint people according to their capacity.
Even if they came from one region.
And unfortunately,
that's not an argument that's got washed with a lot of people.
I would appoint either they are Muslims, even if they are all
as Muslims.
If they have the capacity, they are Muslims.
I will oppose you.
If they are all of 7th day, as long as...
No, very realistic, Mr. Bamwine.
This is my personal view. As long as we are able to produce Ugandans who can deliver to Uganda. But the biggest problem, as he has put it, I think the president, in trying to harmonize the country,
gives them 5%.
He has all along been trying to look at the religion, tribe, all those issues. And I think that's where the problem is coming from. He was talking about maybe 4 Muslims. And I'm asking, how many are non-Muslims? And unfortunately, before you talk about Muslims and Christians, there are those who are not Christians.
Well, but the Muslims are well known. Calibrate.
That's not Mr. Bamwine, please.
Muslims who are not Christians.
Yes, one of us want to mislead our listeners. No, Mr. It's only 2 divides. It's only 2 divides. We are talking about Christianity and Islam.
There are those who are not Christians, and they are evangelists.
Let's not mix this up.
There are some people
Mr. Bamwine,
Muslims and who are not Christians.
Mr. Bamwine.
And if you are talking about sharing the national cake, where is theirs? So the issue I'm trying to say is that it's very unfortunate that in this era, 21st to the 1st century, we are still subjecting ourselves to the hands of these people who have recognized that we are.
Well, some people don't regard it that way, so.
Which shop do you go to?
Even if
I don't think you should regard it as colonialism.
I'm telling you, if we go to Ugandans, whether they are Muslims and they are able to deliver to Uganda, I have no problem. But You find a person with a PhD is saying, I'm born again. Yes.
But
What roads?
your name is Fred.
That's for my father. And he's still around, so that's not my name. My name is Bamwine. I'll tell you my name another time. But I'm trying to tell you that as a country and the kind of education we have tried to acquire, we need to translate and say what kind of people do we need. It's true. If we had those two divides, Christians and Muslims, since independence.
But I think, excuse me.
So to me,
Bamwine,
I would propose.
Yes, Honorable Kamya.
If
I think
if I was in charge, I would have.
You were in charge.
On
merit.
On what they're saying.
Even if they come from one called Karamanja.
One religion.
That's what happens with them.
Bamwine is being theoretical.
But I'm trying to tell you what
Because, let me tell you.
But when you bring this, Honorable Latiff is the person who says that the cabinet is too large. He's at the same time saying, no, we should expand and include the Muslims.
I think those are different arguments. This is
Like having 18 ministers.
But for me, I want to address it from two angles. One, I agree with the Muslims' grievance that they should be given their rightful share. And it's not the first time in this country that people have stood up and asserted themselves and gone ahead and done something. You remember before the beginnings of DP was exactly the Catholics saying we are marginalized. The Catholics were not getting enough positions in this country, and they were not getting scholarships, and they felt like second-class citizens. That's where they bring their truth and justice. We want truth and justice for Catholics in this country. So they started a political party, EP. So I agree that people should stand up and be assertive, like my parliamentary Imam here is doing. What I find contradictory, though, is that when the Muslims had a chance to elect a president twice,
when was that?
Mayanja, and who I agree absolutely with their concern.
Yes.
But I'm also saying, I mean, we need to be serious.
Yes.
Eh? When you get an opportunity, I don't know whom my friend here voted for, he should tell us, but there was a Vidandi study. I don't think there are only 30,000 Muslims in this country. They had a chance to appoint a president, but they gave him 30,000. Let me finish.
Right. Yes.
He got only 30,000 votes. 10 years before, there was a moment.
Chibirika, 1996.
And I think he got it. So really, when we need to be serious. But what I want to talk about Bamwine here, not being theoretical, is that in the whole world, the politics is about sharing. Yes. And the reason we had the war in Northern Ireland was precisely about that. The Protestants in Northern Ireland were lording it over the Catholics. Let me finish.
Yes.
The Protestants in Northern Ireland,
yes,
who are not even Irish for that matter. Most of them were immigrant English people. They go to Ireland, but because they are more educated, they have more money.
All right.
They were taking all the jobs, all the contracts, all the scholarships. No, the Irish said, hang on a minute. So the war was between Catholics and Protestants.
We need to hear from the listeners. Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Our numbers.
Passing in the road.
Let's hear.
You ask this road.
No, what I'm saying is that when
I think that has made
national cake, everybody must eat.
This is
fairly.
Those areas which
irrespective of who was
let's move forward. Let's move. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can call in now. Our numbers 0414-348-111, 031-260-390, When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Spectrum, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Very well, thanks. Your name?
I'm calling from Bukota.
Yes, Ahmed. Spectrum, hello? 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 Well, but it's contradiction that you're now agreeing with. So, yes, your name?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
This is Samuel.
Yes, Samia.
You are not getting.
Spectrum, hello? Yes, sir, your name?
I'm called Kawempe.
Spectrum, hello?
Yes, Kamya. My name is Frank.
Yes, Frank.
I'm an Imam employer from the UK. So,
Spectrum, hello? Yes?
Spectrum, I thank you the name of my table. This is money other than taking your money from country.
Spectrum, hello? Yes, your name? Good evening, your name, sir? Let's get back to the studio. Honorable Kamya, you can respond.
I think that
Tribe and religion, should it matter in this?
whether you like it or not, in the whole world, it matters. There's no look at the Middle East. The world, I mean, in the whole world, that what you're talking about, that gentleman who talked last, and Mr. Bamwine, is what it should be, is the ideal situation, where you don't look at color or tribe or religion or what. That is the ideal situation. But in the real world, they consider them. It's not the best thing to do. I just told you, the gentleman talked about Britain. In Britain now, they are working so hard to accommodate everybody. That is why there's a word called affirmative action. to get people included. Affirmative action is about including people even when they are not deserving. But we have affirmative action in our laws, in the Constitution. I am not the one who coined that word. Affirmative action. It means reach out and get even those who are not deserving. So the gentleman who said I've taken the trouble, who said he's disappointed with me. I'm talking about the real world. In the real world, but first of all, the cabinet is so small. I don't think that you can fail to get out of maybe 5 million Muslims. You can fail to get to 10. Eh? And that the only people who are
more than that.
I don't know. There are 12
about
million.
11% of the national.
No, according to our census, we are over 17
So
million.
really, even when you are looking for competence, you have a responsibility by the Constitution
17%.
to make
That's
sure
17 million.
17 million.
Yeah.
That's
That
about
is why, listen,
Almost.
people,
That doesn't agree with the national.
excuse me, that is why women,
We have our national census and the national.
Maybe you count the ones
that
who have
is
not
why
been born yet.
women will stand up and say, we want this as women, not as competent people. The women sat in Munyonyo sometime last year when Ellen Johnson visited the president of Liberia, and they are the cream of this country in the women, and they passed a resolution to ask President Museveni to appoint a woman vice president, not a competent vice president.
Right.
So all over, this is the real world.
Right.
And political as it is the real world.
My take on Honorable Bet Kamya said that we had some Muslims who stood for presidency and we didn't vote for them. All along, Muslims have been a little bit nationalistic, and indeed have been supporting different people from different regions as people who are nationalistic. And I think the NRM is sending a message, because we know that we have many Muslims who support NRM. And someone has talked about Nsereko, that the president cannot choose Nsereko because Nsereko is arrogant. No, but Nsereko, if you feel that Nsereko is arrogant, if that is the way how you feel, we have many qualified Muslims who are loyal, very loyal to NRM.
Yes.
So I wouldn't buy that idea that we only have Nsereko and others. We know that we have many Muslims, qualified Muslims, who are yellow in blood, and they have not been given that opportunity. Are we together? And someone talked about in this century we don't bring about the tribe and religious. I think you are living on an island. Come back to the earth and on reality. Come to know the reality. That definitely there is no way how you are going to lead this country or to lead the nation without putting into serious considerations the various divides, the religious divides, the regional divides, the cultural divides. So if you are not aware about all those important divides, then you cannot lead this country.
And your ODM colors, is that true? Do you belong to the ODM as well?
Which ODM?
Well, the Orange Democratic Movement.
No. There is that idea that is coming up, and I am a member of the Democratic Party, and I still really subscribe to DP.
Fred Bamwine.
First, I think there is a total departure between me and Honorable Kamya and Latiff. Because she admits
it's a natural departure, I think.
In the real world, what I'm saying, in the ideal world, that's what it's supposed to be. But in the real world, it is different. I think all of us, we should be striving
and we live in the
take
real
Uganda
world
to where the world should be, not where we are. Where we should be as a country.
Starting with State House.
Two, somebody mentioned about Britain being a democracy and it is developed. No,
it's not developed.
Britain was a champion of slavery, if you didn't know.
And colonialism.
Britain ruled Uganda for 70 years. There was no single election in Uganda. That's why I'm saying there's no country which is in the G8 which developed because of human rights and democracy. Countries first develop, after developing, then they look at these issues. Now, the question of Muslims and these other groups, fortunately we have a president who listens to everything. The other day he was told we need to have a cabinet, which he has done it.
Yes.
Now there is another voice. We need to have a cabinet with more.
No, let him do whatever he wants.
He's going to
We are not interested in those presidential flaws.
Mr. Sebagala can be a
No. We are not interested now.
I agree with a man called Segrinya. What do we need? Do we need roads? Do we need schools? Or we need tribes and religion? I think we need services above everything.
Why didn't you
Thank you very much, Honorable
supplying roads?
Betty Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance, thank you for coming, Spectrum. Tonight, Mr. Fred Bamwine, the new resident district commissioner of Mpigi district, he went on hiatus away for elections, formerly at RDC Nakao, now he's back in the game. Honorable Abdul Latiff Sebagala, Kawempe North MP at Imam Pale. We hope your double cabin comes in good time with your driver. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond, Sister Spectrum. We'll be back tomorrow.